This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop.
Got it in
Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
Welcome to it. It is Wednesday, my friends, and I appreciate your support. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Getting things rolling here. A lot of cleanup going on. Ogama County may have had a tornado during yesterday's storm outbreaks. A lot of powerful little cells in that storm outbreak yesterday all across the state. A variety of places that felt the brunt of those storms. Cleanup continuing today. We'll keep an eye on that. You know, here's where I'm going to start today. There's a lot going on today. From the State House with Courser and Gamrot to the White House and all points in between. But I'm going to start with a hitchhiker. I'm going to start with a hitchhiker because this hitchhiker would really get your attention. A Detroit area woman got more than she bargained for in a produce purchase this week. Reports coming yesterday that Ariel Jackson of Troy, Michigan, while digging into a bag of grapes, preparing to rinse them, when an 8-legged creature with red hourglass markings appeared. That, of course, a black widow spider crawling out from the fruit. So she called 911. Probably a good choice. When I called them, Jackson told them, I said, this isn't really an emergency, but I have a black widow spider. And the guy on the phone's just like, well, kill it. And I'm like, me? You want me to kill it? I'm not going to make sport of Ivy, but Ivy has no love affair with spiders. I can tell you. Her boyfriend and brother eventually did the job of offing the spider, by the way. It was far from the first such incident this year. A Vermont woman spent a night in the hospital in May after being bitten by a black widow that crawled out of a bag of grapes purchased at a Shaw's supermarket. A Minneapolis area woman in June found a black widow in a bag of grapes bought at a Target store. Another found in a bag of grapes bought from an Aldi store in Britain last month. And New Zealand news agencies reported earlier this month that at least 10 spiders were found among grapes imported from Mexico, and at least 8 of them poisonous. The grapes here in Michigan were purchased at the Troy Walmart. Walmart saying, when it comes to food safety, we all take allegations seriously. We are working to investigate all aspects of this allegation and taking appropriate measures to fully understand what may have happened. Trust me. In my experience, if Ivy had found that spider, her shoe would have been off potentially. The grapes, we'd have been cleaning up the kitchen for 2 weeks because she would have beaten that bag of grapes until there was no juice left. The spider was unrecognizable, and the problem had been solved. Trust me, the problem at that point would have been solved. Yeah. All right, well, yeah. Well, you know, I mean, why mess around? Just beat it. Just beat it to death. All right. Now, where else do we want to go this morning? Let's start with this. The family of Freddie Gray. The gentleman that died while in police custody in Baltimore. The family of Freddie Gray has landed a massive $6.4 million settlement. The city of Baltimore agreeing to pay $6.4 million to settle claims stemming from his death in police custody in April, even though the criminal cases related to his death are still unresolved. Now, the settlement technically is not final yet, but is expected to be approved by the city later today. And that payment will be made in 2 annual installments of $3.2 million each. Under the settlement, the city of Baltimore accepts all civil liability for Gray's death, but does not admit any wrongdoing by its police officers who are still facing criminal charges in the matter. The payout is an enormous one for the city of Baltimore, according to the Baltimore Sun. Only 6 police brutality payouts have exceeded $200,000 since 2011, and all of those came after lengthy court battles rather than being agreed to quickly. Making the agreed payout especially unusual is the Maryland actually caps the damages plaintiffs may receive in lawsuits against the police at $400,000. That cap was recently upheld in court, with the Maryland Court of Appeals throwing out an $11.5 million verdict and lowering it to the $400,000 threshold. So the question is, why would you pay so much in the Freddie Gray case? And the higher amount in Gray's case is only possible because government officials are allowed to negotiate higher payoffs if they wish. What are they trying to accomplish? And what are they trying to prove here? Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake says the settlement was in the best financial interest of Baltimore. Really? $6.4 million when the cap is $400,000. You paid out 6 times the normal amount. Of course, Rawlings Blake is the same woman who told the police to stand down at the beginning of the riot, so she's suspect as far as leadership goes anyway. Gray, as you may recall, is a 25-year-old black man who had a lengthy criminal history. He was arrested by police in a high-crime area the morning of April the 12th for allegedly possessing an illegal switchblade. While being transported in a police van, he suffered severe spinal cord injuries that led to his death just a few days later. And after his death, Baltimore erupted in waves of protest, rioting, violence. The Black Lives Matter movement descended. The city's violent crime rate has drastically escalated, with more murders so far this year than all of 2014. Charges of racism were leveled, although the 3 officers that were most closely involved with Gray's arrest and transportation were all black. But this has become an enormous red herring as well. The driver of the van that was transporting Gray, Caesar Goodson, facing the toughest charges, including second-degree murder. Prosecutors arguing that police intentionally subjected Gray to, quote, a rough ride that led him to hit his head and die, while defenders of the officers have argued that Gray was intentionally seeking to injure himself to extract a settlement from the city. Well, his family got one. His family got one. All right, still to come today, we'll talk about that Kentucky clerk. She has been released from jail. And Hillary Clinton finally says she's sorry, but sorry for what exactly? That, and don't forget to check the grapes, boys and girls. It's the Steve Gruber Show.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
Just 6 hours, 41 minutes and change now. Just 6 hours, 41 minutes and change until... Wait for it. Until Apple will unveil new iPhones and the new Apple TV set-top box. The 6S and 6S Plus on their way. The new Apple TV, they say, will change everything. We'll see. Could be. Possibly a new, bigger iPad on the way, too. That's going to happen out west, of course. San Francisco in 6 hours and 40 minutes. Now, there's a clock on the Apple event. 6 hours, 40 minutes, 38 seconds, and you can prepare to spend more money on technology. Hey, I'm just here to help. A judge has ordered the Kentucky County Clerk Kim Davis out of jail. She was released yesterday, and her case also drew the personal attention of at least 2 presidential candidates. Davis greeted by a crowd of singing and cheering supporters as she exited the jail. They sing Amazing Grace and God Bless America as her attorney vowed Davis would be back to work this week. The order for her release came from U.S. District Judge David Bunning, the same judge who initially jailed the Rowan County clerk last Thursday on a contempt charge. He lifted the order. He said the court is satisfied that since last week, the clerk's office has been issuing marriage licenses to all legally eligible couples. So we'll keep an eye on what that means. Yeah, she's a Democrat. I think it's a political stunt. I think a lot of things about that. You guys don't seem to agree with me on that, and that's okay. I think jail's where she belonged. We've talked about that a couple of times now. But if you refuse to do your job that you were elected to do by the voters, well, that's the result. Hillary Clinton is finally sorry, it seems. The question is, for what? For what? I mean, Monday she had nothing to apologize for because she did with her homebrew server what was allowed, she said. Those comments came from an interview with the Associated Press on Labor Day. It seems, however, that the former First Lady's campaign is in serious turmoil over the ongoing scandal and cannot figure out the right message. In fact, the Clinton campaign is in flat spin. The Clinton machine in full panic. It's been that way for a while, but the chinks in the armor are really starting to show. Tuesday brought a complete 180-degree turn, and Clinton gave ABC News her first apology for using a private email server while Secretary of State and calling it a mistake. Clinton, it seems, may finally understand that her elusive answers are costing her dearly with voters. She said, even though it was allowed, I should have used 2 accounts, one for personal, one for work-related emails. That was a mistake. I'm sorry about that. I take responsibility. Let me repeat that. I know it's hard to believe. I take responsibility. Of course, it's refreshing that she's taking responsibility so many months after she defiantly told the world that her private server would remain private and further told anyone that would listen that there wasn't anything important there anyway, just a bunch of stuff about her daughter Chelsea's wedding and some apparently very secret yoga moves. I'm here to reassure you, however, that no one, not even hardcore Democrats, actually bought into those ridiculous explanations. We now know, of course, that she, in fact, had top secret and other classified materials on her emails and her server. It is also clear she may have put the United States national security at risk by doing so. The bigger problem now, however, is when did Clinton have her server wiped clean of all emails and information? It is becoming ever more apparent that may have occurred after a congressional committee demanded access to the private hardware in the ongoing Benghazi investigation. If it turns out that is in fact true, that she wiped her server after a congressional inquiry into the server began, Clinton's White House aspirations will be all but finished. At the State Department's request, Clinton has turned over 55,000 pages of work-related emails, and the FBI has taken possession of the server after Clinton initially refused giving it up for months, finally relinquished last month. The ongoing political storm has been underscored by Clinton's sinking poll numbers nationwide. She has also fallen from the inevitable candidate to a maybe candidate, with long-shot candidates Bernie Sanders and Vice President Joe Biden catching up quickly. In fact, admitted socialist Sanders, a senator from Vermont, is now leading Clinton in back-to-back polls in New Hampshire, where the nation's first primary will be held early next year. Biden, meantime, is meeting with influential members of the Democratic Party and seems ever more likely to jump in before the first DNC debate coming in October. Clinton, however, a veteran of Washington scandals, seems to take much of it in stride. As you might guess, she said, I've been around a while. Lots of attacks, questions raised. I can survive it because I'm running to be president. It's all about you, Hillary. I believe the American people will respond to that. I believe she's right about that. American people will respond. And it didn't take long for Republicans to respond either. RNC National Press Secretary Allison Moore wrote this in a release. The only thing Hillary Clinton regrets is that she got caught and is dropping in the polls, not the fact her secret email server left classified information exposed to the Russians and the Chinese. Hillary Clinton's reckless attempt to skirt government transparency laws put our national security at risk and shows she cannot be trusted in the White House. This is all part of the tailspin that I do not believe she can recover from for several reasons. The most important being is that people, well, they really don't like her. She is, as they say, a cold fish. She's not a warm, exuberant candidate like her husband, former President Bill Clinton, was, or for that matter, that Sanders and Biden are today. I've been telling you for a very long time, she is not going to become the Democratic nominee for president now or ever. It's really beginning to look like I was right about that from the very beginning. And if you don't trust me, trust the Quinnipiac University poll that shows 61% of Americans say they don't consider Clinton honest or trustworthy. I could have told you that a very long time ago as well. Oh, wait a second. I did. The phone number here is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. I encourage your calls. Common Sense Hotline for you, 888-900-9966. It's Wednesday. This is The Steve Gruber Show.
The Steve Gruber Show, American Values with Midwestern Common Sense.
Welcome back to it. It's Wednesday, 33 after the hour. And I wanted to share with you the Hillary Clinton apology. I wanted you to hear it for yourself and see how it rings on radio as opposed to television. Go with it, Alex.
I am confident by the end of this campaign, people will know they can trust me and that I will be on their side and will fight for them and their families. But I do think I could have and should have done a better job answering questions earlier. I really didn't perhaps appreciate the need to do that. What I had done was allowed. It was above board. But in retrospect, certainly, as I...
Did she say it was above board? It's been anything but above board. If it had been above board, we wouldn't be having this conversation now, would we? If it were above board, we wouldn't have any concerns here. If it were above board and out in the open, there wouldn't be a conversation. Go on.
Look back at it now, even though it was allowed, I should have used two accounts, one for personal, one for work-related emails. That was a mistake. I'm sorry about that. I take responsibility. And I'm trying to be as transparent as I possibly can.
Did you make a mistake?
I did. As I said, it was allowed, and there was no hiding it. It was totally above board. Everybody in the government I communicated with, and that was a lot of people, knew I was using a personal email.
Sounds a little different,
but I'm sorry that it has, raised all of these questions. I do take responsibility
that
for
part's
having
true. Hold on right
what...
there. She's sorry that it's raised all these questions. I don't need to hear any more of that goop. It's, yeah, she's sorry it's raised all these questions, that's for sure, because it's also raised Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden in the polls. That's what bothers her the most. It's not that she actually thinks she did anything wrong. She doesn't, it doesn't register with her. She is not like other people. She is not like you and I. And now Vice President Joe Biden road testing his campaign message ahead of a possible run for the White House. That's because Hillary Clinton and her lack of transparency, her lack of openness, her lack of honesty, and her inability to be accountable, until now it would apparently, has opened the door for Joe Biden. At that Labor Day parade in Pittsburgh, he was showing off his working class roots while calling for policies to address the same old Democratic thing, income inequality. And before that, he was on a 2-day swing through Florida. Biden flaunting his foreign policy chops, mingling with party donors. On Thursday, tomorrow, Biden will appear on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. where his off-the-cuff style has endeared him to many Democrats, will be on display. Biden's ramped-up public schedule has fueled speculation that he is poised to challenge Hillary Clinton. I've told you for a very long time he intends to run. The vice president insists he has not made up his mind and that he isn't sure he has the emotional fuel to run for president after the death of his son, Beau. However, make no mistake that his son, Beau, wanted him to run for president, Beau, who passed away earlier this year. But the Biden buzz grew again yesterday when a new Monmouth University poll showed the vice president gaining ground on Clinton nationally. Clinton still commands a 20-point lead over Biden, 42-22, but Biden leapfrogged Senator Bernie Sanders, who has 20% support after months of campaigning. The vice president, meanwhile, gained 10 percentage points since the last version of the poll without even being in the race. Biden, who is 72, has appeared energized, and he has appeared to me to be a candidate. He looks like a candidate to me. You know, if you're shaking hands and kissing babies and, you know, running out there with a big smile on your face, what do you look like? You look like a candidate. I've traveled as, here's a comment he made while discussing his foreign policy in South Florida. I've traveled as of today 992,894 miles for the president. I've met with virtually every major leader in the world. I know these guys. I know them better than anybody in the administration because I've been hanging around so long. In marching in the Pittsburgh parade, he heard cheers of "Run, Joe, run," and "Give it a go, Joe." Hillary Clinton's campaign is in deep trouble. Biden is from Scranton, Pennsylvania, another important state. Pennsylvania, clearly important. Will it be enough to help him win Pennsylvania? Well, it doesn't take much of a nudge from Democrats because Pennsylvania has become such a left-wing bastion. So Biden served up red meat to the party's liberal base in a speech to the United Steelworkers Union on Labor Day, calling for the elimination of tax loopholes that benefit the wealthy to pay for programs such as free community college tuition. Here we go again, free college for everybody. You see, once they throw something out there like free, you know, like Bernie Sanders did free college for everybody, and then Obama says free college for everybody, and then Biden says free college. It's got to be paid for somewhere, boys and girls. You know, it's got to be paid for somewhere. It's, well, we'll just keep an eye on it. The Air Force is giving landowners near Area 51 in Nevada an offer they cannot refuse, accept $5 million in exchange for the land, or the service will simply take it. Area 51, long been the site of legends regarding government contact with extraterrestrials and other covert experiments. Similarly, the battle between property owners near the area and the Air Force has lasted just about as long. The fight has taken place for over 50 years, according to the Associated Press. But the Air Force is now tired of waiting and has issued a deadline of Thursday, that's tomorrow, for the owners to accept the offer or face seizure of 400 acres through eminent domain. Over time, the Air Force has gradually acquired the land surrounding the area, such that the 400-acre parcel is completely surrounded by 4,500 square miles of government property. The only access to the land is through armed guards. The land has become an increasingly greater safety and security risk as demand for test and training opportunities have increased, so says the government. We're going to take your land, see? And that's the way it's going to be. I don't think it's a bad deal. You know, what did we say, $5.2 million for 400 acres? That's not too bad. You know, the price isn't terrible. I'll just say that. Not too bad. I'd probably just go ahead and take it. And something else just to scratch your head about the world's largest biker bar. You were probably planning on going. I'm sorry about that, but the world's dude, it's not my deal. The world's largest biker bar has burned to the ground in Sturgis, South Dakota. Yep. Yeah, the Sturgis Saloon billed itself as the world's largest biker bar. It's the Full Throttle Saloon. The Full Throttle used to be on reality television. They had zip lines and live bands and a whole lot of things going on pretty much all the time. with the place burned to the ground here in the middle of the night. So it's over, at least for now. The Full Throttle Saloon is at a dead stop. It's 41 after the hour on the Steve Gruber Show.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
Yeah, that'd be us. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Thanks for dialing it up. It seems yesterday was the big day for apologies that come far too late and sound completely disingenuous. We just heard Hillary Clinton's. State Representative Todd Courser releasing an uncharacteristically concise letter apologizing Tuesday for his role in the sex scandal with Cindy Gamrett. And basically asking for censure, excuse me, asking for censure instead of getting booted out. Well, I'm guessing that's not going to work very well for him, but a guy who has had a very close eye on this entire affair is Kyle Melinn, the editor of MERS News. Kyle, welcome back to the program.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
So, all right. You obviously saw the letter or whatever. What do you make of his latest maneuver here?
Yeah, that was a complete change of strategy there, wasn't it? It seemed like he was going to go down guns a-blazing, accusing the House members of campaigning in their own offices and basically saying, he's being singled out for his ultra-conservative views, and now he's doing a complete about-face and apologizing and in a letter throwing himself to the mercy of the committee, which is what Cindy Gamrett's been doing basically the entire time. Yeah, I'm with you, Steve. I don't know how this is going to work. He hasn't seemed very apologetic up to now, and has certainly not taken the tack that she has. So I don't know. He's supposed to testify today. We'll see how he's received.
Yeah, this is where I read it. Todd Courser, I'm really sorry that I have to write this letter. I'm really sorry I have to admit that I'm wrong. I'm really sorry that I got caught in this whole mess. What he said was, I asked forgiveness because I presented myself in a way that brought embarrassment, not only on me and my family, but on the House, my district, and the state. I take full responsibility for my actions that jeopardized the integrity of the Michigan legislature. For that, I am truly sorry. Now, if he had written this day one, we'd be in a different place.
Yeah, we may be in a different place. I think you're exactly right. And especially as I took a look at this 800-some page report yesterday, I took a look at about a third of it myself, and then our staff looked at the rest of it. Just going through it, it looks like that office was extremely dysfunctional, and that they mixed personal and private and political purposes all in one office. And the reason I mention that is because if you're looking for something like a smoking gun to say, oh yeah, that's why they're going to get that guy out, this is clear reason of using this state representative office for political purposes, I don't know if you necessarily can find it. I think the best they got against Todd Courser is what was published at the very beginning, that he had an affair with a lawmaker, that he cooked up some strange email to try and get himself out of it, and then gotten snarled in this strange melodrama that has just stretched on for a month and has made an embarrassment out of himself and the institution. Well, when it comes right down to it, that's why they're looking to expel him. And while Cindy Gamrett's apologized for making herself and the office look foolish, he has fought back every step in the way and tried to fight back all the various charges against him. In the end, I don't know if the various charges against him are necessarily all that strong. The strongest thing that he's got going against him is that he's just created a complete drama and strange mess.
It is a very strange mess, and of course, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the next challenge he's going to face is holding his family together, which, not exactly a stretch, but, he looks like a guy who's getting pounded from all directions. And listen, choices, Todd. You put yourself, choices led you to this place. As my father would say, you made bad choices.
Yeah, and as you look through the emails that he had with his staff, it looks like it started right from the very beginning as far as bringing his friends on as his staff, and he admits that basically in the course of these letters and emails that you see in the House office report. Essentially what he had here was his old campaign buddies who had been trying to get him elected to something for years be brought on as staff. And what they ended up doing is that they didn't use state email at all. But what they did is that they were in his law office at times, they were at their homes at times, they were at the state office at times, and they never really distinguished, I don't think, their roles at all. Like they did state work at home, but then they did political work in the office, and everything got kind of intertwined and mixed together. And in the meantime, Courser was berating them personally for not doing certain things. And then on the other hand, the staff was like, what's up with this guy, and why is he so abusive, and why do we keep getting these angry emails? And all that's kind of laid out in the report, and it's really, if they could go back and hit the reset button on all of this, all of them involved, I'm sure they would, because what was laid out today looks pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, pretty rough stuff. Yeah, here's my guess, and I have nothing to base this on except gut feeling. My gut feeling is that he's gone and she will survive by the skin of her teeth because of the tack they took after the fact. And I think that their performance since it came to light, his, like you said, combative, and hers contrite, will make a difference in the final outcome.
I think you're right on that, Steve. But I also think that when you take a look at the amount of evidence that this committee had to work with, you don't really see a lot from her. You don't see a lot of emails or exchanges or anything from her. I think one thing that they got her on is if she was very forthcoming on what she knew about this strange concocted email that Courser sent up to try and cover up the affair. It's pretty clear through the audio and through the evidence that she knew something about it. Now, she may not have read the entire thing and knew exactly what was in it before it got sent out, but she knew something was up. And I don't know if she's made, I don't know if she was as lucid and forthright about that from the beginning. In fact, I was reading in the AP last night that a couple of her constituents pounded her for that during her town hall yesterday. But then again, she held a town hall.
Yeah,
she's actually trying to talk with her constituents. If you look on her social media page, she's trying to talk about issues and trying to get people involved and engaged.
Trying to move it past to some new conversation. Kyle, we got to leave it there, but of course this conversation is not quite over, but it's getting close. Kyle Melinn, editor of MERS News, always thank you.
Hey, my pleasure.